program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a beautiful afternoon. We're sitting with some wildebeest in the sunlight, and this is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon again, everybody. My name is Byron, and with me on camera this afternoon is VM. And welcome to Safari Live. Taylor is also out at the moment on drive with Jeandre, who's just returned back from leave, and then our friend Tristan and Craig, they're going to be heading out on walk later. A big warm welcome to our 3 schools this afternoon: Cub Run Elementary, Sutherland Elementary, and Fuller Meadow. It is wonderful to have all of you, all you young kids. Please don't forget, send us your questions ask your teachers to send us your questions at hashtag Safari Live via Twitter, and we'll gladly answer them for you. Now, we are coming to you live from the Greater Kruger National Park, and what a great start. We've got all these beautiful wildebeest out in the clearing very close to us, and they're enjoying the shade at the moment. It's a beautiful warm afternoon. It started off cool this morning. It was overcast, but now the sun has broken through, and these wildebeest are enjoying the shade and the open grasslands that they feed on. They love feeding on grass, so it really is wonderful to see them out in the open. We had a family of warthog a bit earlier, but they seem to have disappeared, unfortunately. They moved off. Hopefully we'll see them again or find them later. And now, our plan for this afternoon is we are going to try and find some leopard. We haven't seen leopard in a few days, so I'm going to try my best. We did have tracks of leopard walking around this morning. They probably walked around early this morning, and we're going to head back into that area and see if we can't find those leopards. Hopefully we have some luck. Alright, so we're going to continue along. Let's head over to my friend Taylor, who would love to say hi to you.
Hello everybody, and welcome of course to Safari Live. As Byron said, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Jeandre, and we are very happy to have Jeandre back with us because he has been... Where have you been? Everywhere. Jeandre's been everywhere. He's been jet setting, working hard behind the scenes, but it's glad to have him back on board again. And of course, welcome to all the schools that have joined us today, and I very much look forward to all of your questions. Now, I have to tell you, we are going to some of my favorite pans on the property on a road called Shibamu, and hopefully we're going to find some warthogs or some buffalo. Maybe, if we're very lucky, we could also see some elephants. And I'm actually hoping we don't see the elephants at these pans, because not too far away from these little pans is a massive dam, and the elephants have been enjoying swimming around there lately. So that'll be cool, don't you think, to see some wonderful animals? Oh, hello Connor. Speaking of the largest land mammal in the world, you're wondering, why do elephants fight? So Connor, you'll find out here in the wilderness there's a lot of conflict that actually goes on between animals, and it's particularly between the boys. Sometimes with, for instance, animals that are territorial, both the boys and girls will mark and defend territories. Then you'll find the girls will be fighting against each other too. But typically, big elephant bulls will push and shove each other around to establish dominance. So that'll allow them, of course, to get the breeding rights to a big herd of females. And that's it. The girls live in a group together, they live in a family, and the boys only stay in that herd for a little bit. Hi, Megan. Megan's updating me. Right, we're almost at these little pans here. Let's see what's around the corner. What do you think we're going to see first, Shando? What would you like to see today? I think we need to find something, one of your favorite animals.
Honey badger.
Honey badger, you missed it last night. Byron had 2 honey badgers. I know, right? We've been so lucky with finding all the smaller things, but we normally only try and see it. In case you're wondering what a honey badger is, it's one of the most ferocious animals out here. To me, it looks like a skunk, I could say, because of the black and white colouring crossed with a Tasmanian devil. So quite vicious, and they're notorious for having a very much a strong-minded attitude, and nobody, and very rarely even lions, will mess with a honey badger. So that just shows you, doesn't it? Oh no, I'm very sad. I'm at my pans and it doesn't look like there's anything here. Let me show you one of them though. Oh, hang on, maybe there's a little kingfisher that flew up into this jackalberry. Let's see if we can get a view of him. They're very beautiful birds. No, it's very rude that kingfisher flew off away from that tree. Sneaky tree. Let me very quickly show you the pans that I'm talking about. Does this one still even have water in? Barely. Look how they're drying up so quickly. This is a natural pan. So I'll quickly tell you how this pan of water was formed. So we've got lots of animals out here, and when we get lots and lots of rain, you can imagine the ground becomes very soft from all the animals walking over it. And when you're the size of a hippo or a rhinoceros or even an elephant, you sink into the ground. And this is what this was created by. What bird has just gone in there? Can you see? Who is that? It's a go-away bird. Look at that beautiful thing. That is a funny looking bird, and they make a really amazing call, which is where they get their name from. So you're going to listen carefully. I'm going to try and do it for you. Go away! Go away! Go away! So when they call, it really sounds like they're shouting, go away at you. That cool just came down for a little drink and off it goes. But so how this thing is formed is basically when the animals walk around on the ground and they step into the ground, it leaves an indentation, and that puddle of water then will fill up, and then you'll find a family of warthogs coming and rolling around in it, then maybe a buffalo, and then a wildebeest, or even a rhinoceros, and then eventually an elephant, and this watering hole gets so big like it is now. But they dry up very quickly though, so I don't think it'll be too much longer before this one dries up. Let's carry on towards the dam. Brandon, you're wondering if there's ostriches out here. Well, we've gone from one of the smaller birds to one of the most giant ones. That's exciting. And they are, but they're quite rare to see down here. So where we're going, towards Cheetah Plains, Brandon, today I will keep a special lookout for you for an ostrich. But I've only seen a few down further south, but every now and then they are sighted down on Cheetah Plains, where the cheetahs like to roam around, and well, they like to eat ostriches too. Now, Kirsten, you're wondering why is the wheel on the car on the other side of the road? On the other side, well, it's because we drive on the correct side of the road. No, I'm just teasing. Well, I don't know. It's just, well, in South Africa, this is the way we drive, on the right-hand side. And when I was in America recently, I was very uncomfortable sitting in the I was sitting in the driver's seat, but I wasn't doing anything, which didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Can you believe that? So we drive on the left side of the road, so you always keep the steering wheel on the middle of the road, as you guys know. And so that was really interesting because I had to try and take the corners differently. It was really, really weird, and it actually took me a couple of goes. I drove around just the neighborhood just to try and get used to it before I ventured on to one of the highways. I thought better get some practice in. Now we're actually almost at the dam. It's right here, and I've got some fresh buffalo tracks that are every now and then popping onto the road, and they like to wallow down here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to send you across to Tristan to say hello, and hopefully when you come back to me we'll have some buffalo or some elephants.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari, and a special warm welcome to all the kids out there. It's lovely to have you with us on our school drive this afternoon. So all of you from Cub Run and Sutherland, as well as Fuller Meadows, really good to have you kids, and I hope you're going to have a wonderful time with us. We're going to try and show you as many little things as we can. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera I have Craig this afternoon, and we're out on bushwalk, so we're looking around in the wilderness of Africa for all the little things. So while Taylor goes and looks for the buffalo and the elephants, we're going to try and see if we can find small little things to show you, as well as maybe we'll try and find some of the animals on foot. Now, we have found one animal on foot which is just over my shoulder, and it is a beautiful herd of wildebeest. Now, a wildebeest is also known as a gnu, and the gnu comes from the sound that it makes. So they often will snort if they see a predator, or if they see me and they are scared, and they'll make a gnu sound, so they which is a very funny sound. Zaira, you're wondering why the wildebeest have beards. Well, it's just the way that they are. There's no particular reason for their beard. They just have it. So it's just a growth of hair that runs along this sort of chin area, but there's no particular reason for it. It doesn't form any part of a protection for them. It's not like a lion, which has a big mane, and that big mane is there to protect the lion's throat and his head when he's fighting with other lions over territory. With the wildebeest, they don't do that much fighting, so it's just part of the animal. It's like some of us have longer hair and others have shorter hair. It's the same thing with the wildebeest. There's no real particular reason. Now, you can see the wildebeest are a little bit nervous of us, so unlike in the vehicles, where they are used to the vehicles, when they see us on foot, they see us very differently. They think that we are these predators and that we maybe might hurt them, so that's why they're standing all very alert, and they're watching us to make sure that we're not going to come too close and hurt them in any way. So very different to being on foot as opposed to being on the vehicle. You have to be very careful when you're on a vehicle, and on foot, and make sure that you approach animals with respect, and make sure that there's always some sort of cover that you can get behind, even if they are an animal like this. There have even been people that have been chased by wildebeest. Kendall, you wondering how many animals are there? Now, I suppose you're asking how many animals are here in the whole of the Kruger National Park area, which is where we are in South Africa, right in the northeastern part of South Africa. And Kendall, I actually don't know what the total figure is, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. Now, you must remember, if we're saying animals, we're going to be including birds and insects and all the other organisms that live here in the Kruger National Park. So it would be actually probably in the millions. But in terms of the animals that we're seeing here today, I'm actually not sure how many wildebeest there are there. I haven't counted them yet, but there is a lot. This is quite a big herd for us. In this particular part of the Kruger National Park, it's not great habitat for wildebeest, so we normally don't see too many, but this is a really nice big herd, and you can see the little babies there as they are trotting off. So to answer your question, I'm actually not quite sure. We'll have to count them and see. Maybe if you can take a screenshot on your computer and you can count them, and you can then tell your teacher to send through how many you've managed to count, and we'll see who gets the closest. I'm going to count my side, and we'll try and have a little guess as to who gets the closest. So if you do that, ask your teacher to send through all of your guesses, and we'll see how many are here. Silas, they're wagging their tails because of the flies that are here. So here in Africa, lots and lots of flies, especially when the sun is up and it's quite warm. Today is about 30 degrees centigrade or 86 Fahrenheit, and so the flies are very active because they're attracted to the wildebeest that are sweating a little bit, and the fly then lands and basically gets a little bit of the moisture off of the wildebeest, as well as the little salts that are forming from the sweat. And so they hassle the wildebeest and they land all over them, and so those tails just wag to keep the flies away and to keep them off them. It's like if you go outdoors and a fly lands on you, it's not very comfortable at all. It crawls on you and it's itchy, so you try and wave it away. That's exactly the same thing that the wildebeest are doing with their tails. Macy, that's a very good question. So if a wildebeest loses its herd, it's going to have a very tough time. Out here, there are a lot of things that eat wildebeest, unfortunately. So the lions and leopard, hyena, wild dog, cheetah, they all go after a wildebeest. So when it's on its own, it's going to be very difficult for it to survive because it doesn't have the protection of everybody. Now, when they're in a group like this, there's lots of eyes, lots of ears, and they can then detect a predator or see a predator around them. As soon as they're by themselves, it becomes a lot
harder, so they're going to have a tough time. But what they would probably do is they'll try and come into an area like this, a very open, clear section, because this is the perfect habitat for a wildebeest, and they'll hope that another herd then comes that they can try and go into. And it depends also if they're a male or female. If they're a boy, then life is a little bit more difficult because they have to be territorial, which means that they have to have their own little place and their own little area that they can stay in, and they're going to have to fight for that. And so that means that they're going to have to grow and get a little bit bigger before they can do that. If they're a girl, then they can join into these herds like this and try and find safety. They'll also sometimes make contact calls. Now when I say contact calls, like I was saying earlier, their name GNU comes from the call that they sometimes make. So they grunt a little bit, and then maybe some others hear them and they'll come together and get back into the same area. But it is very, very dangerous for a wildebeest to be on its own. Julian, the female wildebeest does have horns indeed, so I'm going to try and see if we can just sneak a little bit closer and use this tree just to hide us a little bit so that the wildebeest don't get scared. But the females do have horns, and it's probably because the wildebeest is hunted quite a bit, and so the calves are often chased by things like wild dogs and cheetah, and so the female has those horns to be able to try and protect her baby. She can run in and try and hook the predator with those horns and try and hurt them. And I have actually seen a wildebeest mom chase some wild dogs. So the wild dogs came and they were chasing this little calf all over the place, and then the moms all came together and they came with the horns and they actually hooked a wild dog. So they can do that. And if we have a look now, you can see all of those wildebeest in the distance there, they've all got horns. So even the mommies, they've got the horns, as well as the babies. Some of them have got tiny little horns that are starting to grow. So they're all the babies from this year, or should I say last year, the end of last year, and their little horns are starting to grow now as well. You can actually use the horns to tell the male and female, the female's horns and the male's horns apart. The female has slightly smaller horns, and then the gap between her horns on the top of her head is a little bit less than the males. The males tend to have quite a wide gap and much bigger horns that make them a little bit more easier to tell apart. Also, the females tend to have a reddish head on the front. So you can see in that herd, a lot of them have like a red-brown forehead, and that is the little girls, and then the boys have a much darker forehead. And in this group here will be one big male who's standing right at the back on the right-hand side. You can see him, he's sitting in the shade. He's a clever wildebeest because it is quite warm in the sun, so he's spending some time in the shade to stay nice and cool, and he's looking over all of these females and young ones to make sure that no other males come in and steal them from him. He knows that there aren't that many wildebeest in this area, so he's got to make sure that he keeps his females close and watches them all the time so that the males don't come in and take them away from him and take them into another area. So he's always on the edges watching what's going on, and if a predator comes, often he will be one of the most aggressive animals within the herd. He tries to defend his females and his babies and make sure that the herd gets away. So he can be very, very, very defensive of the herd itself. Now, isn't it interesting when you look at them? Don't you notice that their front legs are a little bit too long? So their front legs are much longer than their back legs. And now I'm going to ask you if you can send me through why you think the front legs are longer. So you can tell your teacher why you think that is and send them through to us, and we'll see who can get the answer right and who gets the closest guess right. So the legs are much longer for a special reason. Alright, now while we do that, let's go across to Taylor, who's found a very slow moving animal that moves in a shell.
We have indeed, we've got a little baby tortoise. It is a baby leopard tortoise who's probably only a few months old. It doesn't look very big at all. It's definitely smaller than the size of my fist. Now, it was making a dash. Can you believe that something so small can actually run really quickly? And the reason why it was moving so fast is because it was going across an open road. So when something this small, you can see it's struggling even to just go over the grass at the moment, is out in the open, birds, hyenas, young leopards would all find something like this tortoise to be a delicious snack, But now it's gone. Let me see if I can get another view of it. It might be difficult. That's the only problem with tortoises, is that they move really quickly and then they duck into this long grass and then it's almost impossible to see them. Let's see. I don't know. I can't see it anymore. But also, no, I think it has now moved. It's managed to get all the way over the grass and off it's gone. But that's okay. What I'd like to do is I'm going to try and get hold of the guides from Chitwa to see if there's any guests still in camp, because I'd love to take you to a beautiful big dam where I think that there will be many hippopotamus. Should we see if I can get them on the radio? Are there any Chitwa vehicles out on drive? Let's see. Maybe they haven't left yet, which means we'll just have to wait a little bit. Can any Chitwa vehicles copy me? Right, something has dropped. I think I know exactly what it is. So watch me, I'm going to do a bit of mechanics now. Up the bonnet goes. Right. I don't know what has made a strange noise in this car, but one of the things about being a safari guide, not only do you have to know about animals, but you have to know a little bit about cars too. So please excuse me while I disappear. Ah, I found the problem. It was the arm that holds up the hood of the car. It just fell. It slipped, and then it was touching the fan. There we go, that's a bit better. So that wasn't actually too much of a problem. I didn't have to bring out any spanners or anything like that to start working, which was good. So that's what's so fun about working in the bush, is that you learn about so many different things, which I absolutely love. We're going to try and quickly see if we can get to Chitwa Dam, but before Byron's bird flies away, let's go take a look.
Well, look at this, everybody. It looks like one of those little quails. It is indeed. Now, we've been looking for them all over. Finally, we've managed to find one. Where's my app? Oh dear. Yeah. Now that looks like that little Currichan quail. Now I know a lot of you have been asking me to try and find one. And VM spotted it, just fluttered a little bit and landed in the grass, and for some reason it's sitting dead still. That's wonderful. I wonder if it will call for us. I doubt it. But it's got that beautiful, that like kind of deep sound, that ooh, ooh. The button quail, Currichan button quail. That's exactly what that is. That is wonderful. Kirsten, there are endangered animals around this area. Now have a look at that little quail. There it goes, and off it goes. Now everyone, it was so special to see that little bird, and I'll tell you why. Is because we've been hearing them calling all the time, but it's so difficult to see them because the grass is so long. And let me just play you the call quickly, because it's got a wonderful sound that it makes. Listen to this. Listen to that. How strange is that? Very strange sound that little bird makes. I'm so happy we got to see that and show it to you. Now, Kirsten, getting back to your question, there are endangered animals around here. I would say one of the most endangered is a species of bird, actually, the ground hornbill. Now, let me show you what it looks like. The ground hornbill, they are endangered. And let's have a look here quickly. That is what that bird looks like. Let's see if you can get it. There we go. The ground hornbill. There are not many of them left around. Only a few hundred within this greater Kruger area that we are situated in, Kirsten. So that is very endangered. And then other little species like the wild dogs, the most well-known animal predator in this area that is endangered, is called the wild dog. Now I'll show you a picture for those of you who haven't seen it before, because they are very, very beautiful. and we don't see them often. There are not many of them left, and it is very special if we do find them. So let me try and find, there we go, the African wild dog. Now look at that. Isn't that a beautiful animal? Beautiful patterns on them. They also occasionally called the African painted dog, but they are called the wild dog, and they're black and white and brown, beautiful colors, very, very big ears, and they've got these huge ears, and they run around listening to see if they can't find food. They hunt impala, different kinds of antelope, but their sense of hearing is very, very good. And you see those big ears moving around trying to listen out for prey, but their eyesight is also very good. But they are endangered. So there are a few species. Now I'm going to move on a little. Derek, quails are rare. Well, actually no, I wouldn't say they're rare. They are found all over, but they're difficult to find because they're such small little birds. So they're not easy to see, and because they hide in the long grass, it's very, very difficult to find them. So I'm so glad we see one. Brandon, you asked how big does a quail get? Now that little quail that we saw was probably a little bit smaller than my hand, maybe about that size, Brandon. So not very, very big at all. I'm just trying to listen out and have a good look in this area. We did have leopard tracks around here, but the bush is so very thick at the moment. This long grass is very, very difficult to see anything hiding in it. But you never know. We might still get lucky a little bit later. Also, being so warm, a lot of the animals hide in the shade, and they try not to move around too much because they conserve their energy. So they rest, and then when it cools down and when you move into the night, that's when these animals like the leopards and lions will start moving around a lot and possibly even hunting. Now Taylor has crossed, I think, down to Chitwa, but she's got a rather large animal she wants to show you that loves the water.
Tractor. We have indeed. Now you may hear a strange noise in the distance. It is a tractor. They are cutting the grass in front of the lodge, and the only time that they can work at the lodges is when the guests are all out on game drive. And of course, all the guests that are staying here at Chitwa Safari Lodge, well, they're out having a wonderful time on safari, and of course they need to do some work. But we do indeed have a big dam over here with lots of hippos, with birds, you absolutely name it. Now I hope you've got lots of questions about hippos for me, or any of the other animals. Perhaps you want to know a bit about birds too. Look at that, there we go. So now there's quite a few hippos here. Sorry Charlie, there we go, I could hear your question. I know you're wondering if elephants sweat red and orange like hippos do. No, they don't, Charlie, but that's a very good observation from you. So what we call that reddish color, that stuff that comes out of the hippo, we call that, it's a big word, hipposudoric acid, or blood sweat is another easy one, but it isn't blood at all. It's an oily secretion that's very important to hippos, and without it they will get sunburnt. And also, with living in water like this, it's not necessarily the cleanest water out here. And hippos, we were talking about animals fighting earlier. Big male hippos fight lots and lots, and they cut each other up. So also in that blood sweat is a natural antiseptic, so it actually helps keep the wounds nice and clean and stops it from getting an infection from some of the dirty water. And the reason why the water gets dirty is because animals, and particularly the hippos, actually go to the toilet. Can you believe it, in the dam? Listen, did you hear that? They're all talking to each other. That's the sound that a hippo makes. Now they're bobbing up and down the water. It's quite deep there. You see, they're moving away now from that shallow bank, and they can't swim. They have to walk along the bottom of the surface and then bounce back up again. Now, Brandon, you're wondering how big is a hippo? So it depends if it's a baby hippo or a girl hippo or a boy hippo. But I would say a big male hippopotamus can get to the size of about a small car. So not huge, not as big as an elephant can get, but definitely quite big. And the problem is, while we're sitting here looking at these hippos and they're in the water, it's actually very difficult to tell their size because they're hidden away. And did you see that? How their eyes, their ears, and their nose is all on the same sort of level, so that they don't have to expose their entire body when they need to hear, smell, or see. They can just put a little bit of their body out of the water. And of course, there's many different reasons why they do this. One of them is from protection from the sun. Abby, you're wondering, how do you tell the difference between boy and girl hippos? Well, Abby, in the water, it's actually really tough, and it sometimes helps to have a couple of hippos together, because the boy hippos are much larger than the girls, and they also get much bigger teeth, much bigger, well, I suppose you could call them tusks as well, sticking out of their mouth. But you only see that when a hippo opens its mouth, which is actually not very, very common. And then, again, when a hippo comes out of the water, it's a little bit easier to tell the difference. Otherwise, you look amongst the family of hippos and you see who's got the biggest head. And then, of course, if it's a mom, sometimes they'll have a little calf next to them, so that sometimes helps as well. But it is indeed very difficult. And that's not an old hippo. That's a young hippopotamus that we're looking at now. So that's mom and baby. Now, Ariana, you're wondering if all hippos live in water. So there's only two species of hippos. You've got the pygmy hippopotamus, which we don't get here. I think you find them in the Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in the South America. And then, or is it the Congo? Jandre, can you help me with that? West Africa and the Congo. Oh, no, it's not South America. West Africa and the Congo. Apologies for that. And these guys will also live in the water, and our hippos come out. Can you believe that? At night time, when it's a little bit cooler, but also during the day, because I've seen many hippos out of the water during the day. They'll come and graze, but most of the time they're moving around often at night. Come on, open your mouth for us. But yes, they do spend most of their day in the water. It's very important. Now, Aubrey, you're just wondering, why do they stay in the water so much? And it goes back to the blood sweat that we were talking about earlier. So the water helps keep them nice and cool. We see many animals spending time in the water. You have buffalo, rhinoceros, elephants, and then of course hippos, because it helps keep them cool. And can you believe that hippos are more aquatic than they are sort of comfortable on land? And they can't swim, but they're able to hold their breaths for quite a long time, and then they'll move along the bottom of the water, which I think is really cool. I wish I could hold my breath for about 6 minutes. And Everson, you're wondering if hippos could swim. And like I said, no, they actually can't. It's really amazing. So if you've ever watched anything happening on the moon, you've watched the astronauts as they walk and sort of bounce on the moon because of the gravity. That's sort of what a hippo looks like underwater. They've got very short, stumpy little legs, but because they're quite buoyant, when they're walking, they sort of take a couple of steps, and then they bounce a little bit, and then they sink again, and then they run, and bounce a little bit, then they push off the bottom to take a big breath and go down again. But hippos don't like deep water. They'll only go into the deep water if they feel as though they're frightened and they need to try and get away. Now, Bree, you've just asked how long can a hippo stay underwater for. So I just mentioned that they can hold their breaths for about 6 minutes, give or take a little bit. A young hippopotamus wouldn't be able to hold its breath for that long, I'm afraid. It's got to train, like swimmers and water polo players, how they train to hold their breath to increase their lung capacity. Hippos have to do exactly the same thing. And only once they're big and strong and they've learnt to be able to do something like that are they able to, of course, hold their breath for a long time. But there's actually many hippos here in this area, but because it is so deep, it is difficult for them, so there's only small sections that they can hang around. Now we're going to move off from here. We're going to find something else. Let's go across to the Birdman, Byron.
Birdman Byron, I like that, Taylor. We have indeed found another beautiful bird, a big eagle, everyone. Look at that. Now this is called a Wahlberg's eagle. But what's interesting is this is a pale form. This eagle is usually brown in color, but sometimes you get a slight change in coloration and they become this very light or almost white, especially in the front. The back, the feathers are brown at the moment on this one, but the front part of the bird and the head you can see are very, very white, which is unusual. You do see it occasionally, but not often. So this is very nice to see. But this is definitely a Wahlberg's eagle. A beautiful eagle. It was actually sitting. There we go. Look at that white color in the front. Eric, now you want to know how many bird species we have in this area. Now, Eric, in the summertime, it's probably this area alone, probably around 280 to 300 odd birds, I would say. Somewhere around there, or in the Greater Kruger's, definitely over 300 bird species. But within southern Africa, Eric, so a few countries just north of us, and then in South Africa, in the southern part of Africa, that's interesting behavior from this bird, running along the tree. We've got just over, I think it's just over 900 bird species, Eric. Isn't that amazing? So just in the southern part of Africa, we've got just over 900 bird species. Asher, we do not have yellow-necked eagles here. Those are probably only found in the United States. I don't know about that bird actually, but we definitely do not have them around here. This is interesting behavior from this eagle. I wonder what he is doing, or why it's walking around like that on the tree. I don't usually do that. Just hiding in some leaves there now. Julian, the Wahlberg's eagle is not the national bird, and interestingly enough, these birds actually migrate. I'm just hoping it moves for you, moves out of those leaves. But they migrate all the way to North Africa and some to Europe, actually. So very soon, these eagles will leave and they'll migrate. But our national bird, Julian, you asked what is it? It is the blue crane. That is our national bird. I'll show you a picture of one shortly. Let's just watch this eagle. I wonder if it didn't catch something perhaps, and was maybe feeding on it up in the tree or on the ground even. Now Gus, this eagle will feed on small rodents, maybe some bird species, and even some little reptiles if they're able to catch it. But that's generally what the Wahlberg's eagle feeds on. And even termites. Can you believe that? Little termites. But small reptiles, small mammals and rodents, and other little birds. Brandon, eagles can see very, very far. They've got incredible eyesight. They really, really do have amazing eyesight. A lot better than ours. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the exact distance is, but they could probably spot something about a mile away. But that would be something maybe the size of a page in a book, somewhere around there. But in conditions like this, even with the long grass, this eagle will be able to spot movement in the grass below the tree and swoop down and catch prey. I just want to show you the national bird quickly of South Africa. There we go, that's what it is, the blue crane. So that is the national bird. We do not get them in this area, unfortunately. But down in the Eastern Cape, the southeastern part of South Africa, you do see a lot of them around, and one or two other spots. but that is the national bird of South Africa. Let's see what this eagle is up to. He's still sitting around. Madison, it's actually a very difficult thing to do, is to tell the difference between male and female eagles. Now, Madison, funnily enough, sometimes the eagles, there might be slight markings on the eagle itself, depending what eagle it is. You might be able to tell if it's a male or female. One particular eagle, the Batelier eagle, which is this beautiful black and white eagle with a red face, when it flies around, under the wings, there are different markings for the male and for the female. The female actually has a lot more white under the wing. The male has a lot more black. So that is one way of telling that specific eagle apart between male and female. But the others, it's not always easy. Sometimes, if they are sitting close to one another, female eagles may be a little bit bigger than the male eagles. So especially in the African fish eagle. But it is difficult sometimes. Now, early in the show, I had a family of warthog, but they ran away. But Taylor has found some that she'd like to show you.
We have found some, and these ones, Byron, you would absolutely love them because they are very relaxed and they're not too far away from the car either. And it's mom with 3 little piglets, though they've grown so much in the last couple of weeks, they almost don't look like little piglets. They're not little sausages anymore. And look at them, how they're eating all of the grass. They think it's delicious, and it looks like they're actually going after the grass seeds. And that's one of the favorite things of warthogs. They either go down on their knees like this one, which makes it easier to get down to the grass. So sometimes you see the warthogs have got little shin pads on, and that's just skin that is calloused. It's become hard and really tough from moving around on the ground so much. So they use their hard little noses. They've got like a rigid cartilage part on their little snouts, and they use that like a shovel, and they will dig the roots up of the grass, and then at this time of the year, they'll, as we're seeing them do, they'll snatch and eat all the delicious grass seeds that are around. And I'm happy for them. I hope they eat all the grass seeds, because they keep getting stuck in my socks. And if you ask Tristan as he's walking around, he actually may be able to show you how the grass seeds get very, very stuck all over your socks, your legs, everything like that. And that's what they're designed to do, of course, is that they need to be dispersed by animals, by birds, by lots of different creatures. But they're hungry, and that's something that you see the animals doing all the time in the bush, is eating. Because if you want to become big and strong, and you want to stay fit and healthy, you've got to make sure that you eat your vegetables, that you eat your proteins, that you eat all those tasty things. Otherwise, if you're something like a warthog, you might find yourself in the belly of a lion or a leopard or even a big eagle. And I'm not sure which eagles Byron was talking about, but there are many out here that would be able to carry away a warthog piglet. Though Mom would actually put up a little bit of a fight, can you believe that? Mom is very protective over her babies. Oswaldo, now you're wondering what is the difference between the male and female warthog. So we'll have a look at Mom, because she'll be easier to tell the difference. So if you look at warthogs, where they get their names from is they have on the side of their faces, and you'll see her ones are just by her eyes. They're actually not very prominent. There we go. You see just below her eyes, those things sticking out to the sides? Those are warts. And then, of course, a hog, a pig, so a warthog. And if you say it the other way around, can I tell you a little secret? It actually says Hogwarts. Haha, Harry Potter, in case you like Harry Potter. Anyways, so warthog girls only have one set of those warts. The boys have got 2 sets, and their second pair of warts is actually normally located down closer towards their mouth, and the boys' tusks get much bigger than the girls. And they're also bigger in size too. Oh, look at me go to the toilet now. Oh no, Alexis, I think you've been watching the show too often now. You've asked, what noise does a warthog make? Jean-Ray, can you do a warthog call? I don't know if I can do a warthog call either. That's actually a really difficult one. They make grunts like pigs though, so you often hear them grunting, making strange noises. I cannot. I'm too embarrassed to try and do one today. Yeah, something along those lines. And then when they get scared, when they're frightened, they will squeal really, really, really loudly. So if you've ever heard a pig squeal, warthogs will do the same thing too. But I promise you, this is really special to be sitting so close with the warthogs, because normally, like Byron is saying, they see you and then they run away into the bushes. And we often see that with the smaller animals out here who are a little bit more nervous because there's many things that want to eat them, and they don't always seem to want to stay around and hang around with the cars. But I think they're on the airstrip, so they're on the Chitwa airstrip, so I think they're used to big planes coming past them, and perhaps a small car like the one we're in doesn't really bother them too much when they have those massive birds coming down to land. But you see, Mama's walking off now, and you'll see the little piglets won't be too far behind. And look how they put their tails in the air. Isn't that funny? Come on, one at the back, you're falling behind. They're just actually exploring a little bit. And they're getting old enough now where they will start moving away from Mom a little bit. Oh my goodness. I've just been told that we have to say goodbye to all of you who have joined us from the various schools all over the world. It was great having you this afternoon, and we do hope that you tune in again soon. And thank you for all of your questions. But I think Megan says we have to go to say Tristan. She did say Tristan. Hey, sometimes I make up the names in my head. But we'll see you hopefully tomorrow afternoon for the next school drive, or maybe tomorrow morning, who knows. And we're going to go across to Tristan on foot and see if he's found any spiders or any other insects.
Well, welcome back everybody. We haven't found any spiders or insects yet because we are on the tracks for Shongile, which we think is Shongile. So we're marching as quick as we can to try and get down to the southern side and to try and get into the area where we think she is. So Herbie was out during the day trying to look for them, and he said he came across some tracks. So we're trying to get there, and we're going to try and see if we can track her down. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if we can get the Royals this afternoon? It's been such a long absence that I'm really hoping that we'll be able to find them. We're not too far away from where Herbie had the tracks, so promises to be a good afternoon spent looking for leopard. Now, any afternoon where you can track leopards is a fantastic day in my book, so really looking forward to it. The problem is that it's quite hot this afternoon. Funny enough, it's a little bit more humid than it has been, so walking as fast as we have has made things a little bit sticky and a bit sweaty, which is not ideal. I'm sure poor Craig, who's carrying the backpack, is getting a bit hot there. Now, we're going to keep going so that we can get onto these tracks and hopefully find Shongile as quick as possible. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron, who's in his nice air-conditioned, breezy vehicle, coasting along.
Well, it's definitely breezy out here at the moment, Tristan. But we've just managed to find another beautiful bird, the African Harrier hawk. And we heard the squirrel alarm calling, and then we had a look, and there it goes. There it goes. Let's see if it lands again for us. Come on. Oh, great. We might have a better view from here. Oh, well, there we go. I forgot how good VM is with his camera. Don't have to move. Look at that beautiful bird. Look how the wind is blowing those feathers up on the back of the head. And we know the African Harrier hawk, a lot of birds will mob it and chase it because it actually, have a look at that face. It looks like it's changing color slightly. Do you see how it was bright yellow earlier and it looked like it was going reddish there for a second? Pinkish. Can you see that? So we know the birds mob these African Harrier hawks because they raid nests. They'll try and pick off chicks out of nests, and they're constantly checking around looking for nests or eggs within the branches of trees or in nests. Now, the reason why I wanted to point out that face changing color is because they do in fact change the color of the face. What happens is they've got capillaries that run around that face in that area, and what happens is they push blood to that, and it causes the face to change color. And that often happens when they are feeling threatened, when they are being mobbed by birds. I've seen it. It changes so quickly. They change that face a red coloration. I'm not entirely sure what the reason is for that though. But then once they settle down again, they'll change back to yellow. I wonder if it's perhaps a way to try and deter the animals from going too close to it. And that squirrel is still alarm calling. Karen, you say this is a new bird for you. Wonderful. I hope you got that quail earlier, Karen, because that is a new bird for me on Safari Live. We do not see them often, so hopefully you saw that quail too. But great that you see this African Harrier hawk. It used to be known as a gymnogene, but it is now referred to as the African Harrier hawk. I'm going to try reposition slightly. Let's just see if he does move around. We might get an even better view of it again. It's a lovely, lovely bird. I can see him. He's just still up in the tree. Oh, there he goes. He might land in that tree at the back there. There he goes. Maybe through there, Vim, you might get him. There we go. See those long yellow legs? Now the reason for those long legs is they're able to bend very, very well, and that allows these birds to hang upside down and bend there and stretch those long necks into holes in branches, in trees, or holes in the trees, to be able to raid the nests very, very easily. They are incredible birds. Now, Reese, I'm not sure if that red display is used for mating. I don't know, to be honest. I will read up a little bit about it and try to find out exactly if there is a reason for it. But like I say, I've seen them use that display when they are being mobbed. So I'm not sure. Did it take off then? Oh dear, just dropped down a little bit. Karen, you did see the quail earlier. Wonderful, I'm very glad. Let's just see. No. So Reese, I just want to double check quickly. I've got my bird app here. There's some wonderful European bee eaters flying around at the moment. Probably a bit difficult to see them, and some swallows. But there are a few European bee eaters. Reese, I just want to double check quickly on that African Harrier hawk, just to see if they've got anything in here about the breeding. Do they change that face color when they are breeding? Let's just have a look here. These apps are great. There's so much. It's like having a massive bird book with you with so much information. Let's just see. No, nothing just yet. Okay, so here we go. That's so faces of both the male and the female will flush red and remain flushed throughout a mating sequence. So when they are actually mating, so both male and female cause their face to flush red. So that is interesting. Usually males may try and display to attract a female, but in this case both the male and the female do that. But as I said, I've seen it when they are being mobbed too, when they are feeling threatened. So it's interesting. I'm not too sure what the reason would be, but I think again probably just because the rush of blood going up to the face into those capillaries, that's what causes the face to turn red. So that's very interesting that both male and female turn red when they are mating. Maybe they're blushing. Tennis, I'm not sure. It's a good question. What is the difference between a hawk and an eagle? Where did he go? There he goes. Just flying behind us. And off he goes. Now, Tanis, and we'll see if maybe we can't get one of our viewers to have a look for us and see if they can get a description of the difference between hawk and an eagle. But the main thing with eagles and large eagles, the true eagles, it's I think it's the shape of the beak, the talons, but also the feathers, how the feathers are shaped on the body, and the feathers go all the way down the leg. So those are true eagles. Then you get eagles like the Wahlberg's eagle that don't. Actually, the Wahlberg's eagle do have feathers all the way down. The Battalier, for example. Actually, no, wait. You see, now I've got to double check myself. I'm doubting myself. The Battalier, I think it doesn't really. No, you see, let me show you. The Battalier doesn't really have feathers all the way down the leg. Do you see that? And I'll find another one for you. Let me just think off the top of my head what other eagles. Brown snake eagle is a good one. That's a lovely one to see because that's got very open legs. There we go. There. That's a lovely view of it. And you can see that brown snake eagle, very, very bare legs. Now the true eagles have got feathers all the way down the leg. Now I'm not entirely sure what the main difference is between a hawk and an eagle. I'm assuming it's the size. I do think it's got something to do with the size of the bird. Possibly flight pattern or behavior. I'm not too sure. But it's interesting. That is an African Harrier hawk. So that's also mixed with the Harrier and a hawk. Who knows? I don't know who names these birds. It confuses me a lot. I just know what the names are. I think I'm going to... This African Harrier hawk keeps flying around in this area from tree to tree. I keep getting a glimpse of it circling around. There he goes. Look at that. Let's see if we get any birds mobbing it. Hang on, I'm going to reposition. It would be wonderful to see it raid a nest. Now, VM did ask me before drive, he wanted to see a kill. So VM, maybe we're lucky and we see this bird raid a nest. That would count as a kill, wouldn't it? John, now this African Harrier hawk, it's quite a large bird. I'm not entirely sure. There we go. Watch those birds mobbing it. There they chasing it away. Let's see if the face is turned red. Oh. No, but look at it hanging upside down, everyone. That's just what I was explaining to you. The ability to hang upside down and stick its neck into the trees, into the branches of the tree. You see how those legs are able to bend and hold its body weight? That is amazing. That was really great to see. Now, John, I'm just trying to think again. The size of the of this wingspan of this bird are usually these broad wings. Usually these apps give you the exact size. I think it's probably about 1.5 meters, John, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if I can find out for you. Look at it go! Wow, it's beautiful. There, another bird mobbing it. Oh, it's disappeared. Let me just have a look for you quickly, John. Let's see. And this is wonderful. This is wonderful. It's great to learn like this because while you see these birds, you sometimes forget what wingspans are. I know that of the fish eagle is just over 2 meters, and I know that because I've read that a few times and had a looked that up. And that's exactly how you learn the whole time. And hopefully you remember these things as time goes on. Because often what happens is you may forget at times, which that certainly happens with me, I know. Alicia, now you say the eagles are much larger than the hawks, and they prefer certain species of prey compared to hawks, who would probably feed on small rodents and maybe little birds, but not necessarily fish. I know in this area, the fish eagles, yes, they hunt fish, but all the larger eagles will hunt anything from small mammals to rodents to reptiles. That's what our big eagles feed on out here, so I don't think it's necessarily got anything to do with what they eat. However, the small hawks would target little birds and little rodents. So yeah, I suppose in that sense it could definitely be something to do with the food. Let's just have a look. I'm trying to see. It's Hiren, let's see if I've got a call for that. I think it's a high-pitched squawk. Let's listen to it quickly. Oh, squeak. Can you listen? So that's the sound of the African Harrier hawk. There we go. So that was an easy one. High-pitched, very, very high-pitched. Let's see. They don't give you anything on the wingspan. It's very seldom that they do give an exact measurement of wingspan for a lot of these birds. They give a height. So this Djuma gene is about 65 centimeters, which is probably about that tall if it was sitting in front of me, about that. So that's quite a big bird. So I'm assuming a large bird like that, and we saw that wide wingspan easily, I'd say, probably close to 1.5 meters. And those other bigger eagles have got much larger wingspans, like the martial eagle and the African fish eagle with that long wingspan of just over 2 meters. Now, I'm not far from the hyena den, so I'm going to have a look and see if there are any hyena. Let's see, maybe we're in luck. It's the first time I've been to this hyena den on this trip, so I'm curious. Would be nice to see some little hyenas out. Happy Crocodile, we do indeed see marabou stalks here from time to time. They do come through this area. Those are those very, very tall stalks, long wingspan, very ugly birds, if I may say. They're not very attractive. Well, actually, you know, I think maybe that's a bit harsh. But they probably not going to win any beauty contests anytime soon. Let's put it that way. But they do serve a vital role in that they clean up a lot of carcasses. They are scavengers, so you do see them at carcasses a lot with vultures. I'm just trying to have a good look around here. Any sign of these hyena? I'm assuming, is that the den site? That's the den site there. Doesn't really look like a lot of activity around here, to be honest. Let's just have a look around here. Maybe this side. Hold on a second. No, it doesn't appear as if anybody is home at the moment. Or possibly the youngsters are in the den and the females or the adults are off looking for food. We may come and try and have a look a little bit later or tomorrow again. Okay, I'm going to move out of this area. Let's head over to Tristan, get an update from him and see where he is.
So we're right at Twin Dams now. We managed to find Shongila's tracks coming to this area, and now we're just looking around very carefully to see if she's not lying under one of these trees somewhere. She really loves this area, and she loves to spend time underneath these bushes. And actually you can see also there's an elephant that's also walking close by. So we have an elephant bull that's just on the top side there, walking slowly under those rays of light. Isn't that spectacular? Now that's a young Ellie bull, so he's going to be not too confident about coming too close to us. I'm sure he's maybe picked up our scent. The wind is drifting that way and he's just slowly moving away. But we are, like I say, looking for Shongile. Her tracks are around this area and we know that she can be one of those cats that will just sit and watch you walk by. So we're trying to check very carefully and hoping that we're not going to spook her or chase her away in any way. Now I do know also we had an update that Hosana is lying not too far from where we are. He's lying south of us on Little Gari, so I'm hoping that Shongile will be somewhere close by too. There are baboons here though, which is a bit of a problem because if she did come into this area and baboons came across her, they would have chased her and she would have then run probably back towards where Hosana is. So now we just got to try and figure out exactly where she went. But her tracks definitely crossed onto our side, so it's really good news and it means that she is somewhere around here. It's now just a matter of tracking her down and finding her. Now Twin Dams, as you can see, is also very, very full and it's very, very beautiful here this afternoon. The sun is just coming out and there's this nice light being cast across the dam. There's also a hippo in this dam. You wouldn't say so because there's no sign of it, but there is a hippo. He went underwater as soon as we arrived, and then the baboons are just sitting underneath the trees over there having a bit of a grooming session, watching what's going on and checking out the scenery as well. Now, like I say, hopefully they didn't see Shongile or she didn't hear them, because if she did, she would have moved away. You can actually see where the hippo is moving now in the water. So he's creating a big bow wave and he should come up somewhere in that area. There we go. So he'll pop his head up like that every now and then just to be able to get some air as well as to see where we are and what we're doing. So he's making sure that we're not coming down towards the water so we don't threaten him too much. So he's not going to be that used to people on foot. Hippos generally aren't, but as long as they're in the water and we're up here, then typically we're going to be fine. The hippo knows he's much safer in water, so he'll spend far more time there than trying to come out and attack us. He knows that he's more vulnerable here, so it's better to be down on the water and waiting for there. And that snort is just him telling us, I know that you're there, stay where you are, I don't want you coming any closer to where the water is. And this will be a young male that's been displaced. So Zaid, I'm not sure if you are asking how many species of monkey we have or how many in total. In terms of numbers, well, we only have, in terms of monkeys, we have the vervet monkey, and then we have the baboons that are sitting over there. So those are the only two species that we get here in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. In terms of numbers, I'm not actually quite sure how many there are. I haven't actually heard a statistic. They're probably a very difficult animal to count, because most of the counts that we get in animals that we get in this area are counted by sort of flying a grid pattern with a helicopter, and so as they fly they then count the animals on the ground. Now things like monkeys are going to be excessively difficult to count because they tend to move around quite a bit, so I don't think we'll be able to count them accurately, but I would imagine there is a lot of them. I've seen hundreds of baboons in Kruger. Some of the troops of baboons in Kruger are really very, very large. There's, you'll get a situation where you'll have sometimes 60, 70, up to 100 baboons walking around together, so it really is quite big. And the biggest troop I've ever seen here in the Sabi Sands was 120, which was a really large troop, and they used to move around south of us on Little Gowrie and down towards Mala Mala, and it was quite amazing to watch them coming down the road. It was just this huge line of baboons, and I actually once watched them even chase a lion pride. There were so many of them, I think the lions just got nervous with all of these animals around them that they got a bit nervous and kind of ran off. Right, I think there's no sign of Shongile around the dam here, so I think let's start moving in a sort of westerly direction, and try and see if maybe she's gone off in that way. I didn't see any tracks for her, but that elephant bull was there, so I didn't look too closely. So I think what I'm going to try and do is try and head that way to be able to see if there's any more tracks that side, and see if we can find this little naughty Shongile. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron, who's got some wildebeest to show you all of you.
Tristan, I did have some tracks around that area earlier, so I hope you have luck there finding Shongile. That would be wonderful. I've come back up into the clearings just to see what's going on, and there's a lot of wildebeest activity again. And it's always nice to see herds of wildebeest like this. And there's a Inyala at the back. Look at that. There goes a male Inyala. Oh, lovely. See, so there's a lot going on here, and I'm going to be heading down to the dam shortly, and we'll see what we can find down there. But this is wonderful light. And some lapwings just got disturbed by the wildebeest. Very, very peaceful. thinking, contemplating life. It's very peaceful. It's wonderful out here. There's still a lot of monotonous larks calling, but it's always nice to see these herds of animals walking out into the clearings, into the sunset, and especially when you see different species like a Nyala with the Wildebeest. It really, really is great. Now they're moving back up there. I wonder if they must have gone down to go and drink. Leopard, you say the gorgeous gnu's. Yes, they are indeed. You know what? A lot of people think that they're not attractive and they've been put together by different animals. but I'm glad you like them, Leopard. That's great. That's good news. The wildebeest don't seem to find my jokes funny. I'm hurt. I think, why don't we take a little drive down to the dam and see if there's anything going on down there. Perhaps there are some birds down there. But while I do that, let's head back to Taylor, who's got her aerial up and back in action.
We are indeed back in action at the moment. Hello, Francolins. We just had a very wobbly part inside the antenna. We had to get that fixed to make sure we didn't further damage. Of course, look at the interesting plumage on the back of this bird. See how its feathers are either ruffled. Yeah, it looks like they're actually ruffled up a little bit. Or maybe it's molting, something along those lines. But typically along the back of a crested francolin, it will have very much the same sort of whites and browns and streaky colours. Or maybe it's a juvenile. But I think we've seen all the chicks, and the chicks are quite small still. Maybe it is a molt, but we won't really know. But that's really beautiful. And he or she is strutting beautiful red legs this afternoon. Look at that. Walking, showing those beautiful spurs off as well, I suppose. Not very big ones, though. Aren't you lovely? Looking for insects. Oh, there's some ants. Didn't particularly find the ants very tasty, though. Come on, get us some termites. I love watching these birds catch termites. I think that has to be one of my favourite things. What are you going after? And it was always fascinating trying to see what the small things are that they're pecking at on the ground, whether it's little seeds. But these two, big yawn, predominantly are feeding on insects. Aren't they lovely? Now you can see the spurs quite nicely. So this is the boy, this is the male. That must have been the female that we just saw. And this is one of the differences between francolins and spurfowls, is you can see that massive spur on the back, and a spurfowl has a double set of those. So they used to all be called francolins. Oh, that's lovely. Well, there we go. You can look at very fresh crested francolin dung now. And then they reclassified, for instance, the Natal spurfowl because they've got a double set of spurs. Hello, girl. I think she is molting because her tail feathers look a bit strange. So maybe she's getting a new... So possibly she is just getting a couple of set of new feathers. You can see them coming through on the side. Lara, you said that she's got such a cute strut. Look at her, she's showing off for you now. So she's sort of perked her feathers up. They both have. They're very excited about something. Oh my goodness, because look at them. There's not just two of them anymore. My goodness, it was an entire family. So... that is really fascinating. We went from two, and we keep seeing multiplying animals. Remember this morning we had the scrub hare that turned from 1 to 3, and then we had multiplying elephants, and there was something else that multiplied too. But now, at one point, there were about 6 of these crested francolins on the ground. But you see the male just standing at the back there, keeping a close eye on us. That one that's actually moving around just in front of him, I think that's a juvenile. It was much smaller. And they do grow quickly, like the warthogs we saw earlier with the school drive. They grow very much at the same rate. They sort of double, quadruple in size within a few weeks and a few months. And the birds in particular need to grow a little bit quicker. My goodness, you're a brave chap. You're not moving for anything. Now, those flies that are flying around, please catch them for me, because they're biting us today. And I reckon that you're quick enough and you've got fast enough reflexes to catch a fly. You'll see them chasing after butterflies. So I can't imagine why they wouldn't go after a big tasty housefly. Delicious. And off they go into the long grass. Thank you, Francolins. That was a lovely little sighting. I love them. They're actually quite funny to watch. And I'm going to tell you the story again, but I never forget the sighting we had the other day, and I'm so sad it wasn't live. It was so quick. The day that we had the crested Francolins chasing the hornbills as they tried to land on the ground. That was really funny. But I mean, that would have just been, that male would have been quite protective over the female that was there. So we're still on Chitwa. We're slowly making our way towards the plains. We just obviously had to stop and do a bit of maintenance, and then we shall be on our way again. Hopefully we pick up on something interesting. Maybe the Cheetah brothers have come back again, or perhaps that caracal a little bit better. I don't quite know what to see these days. I mean, we've had 2 nights in a row now that have been absolutely spectacular.
So we're still trying to see and check around. I have found one more track for her that goes off in a northerly direction. I'm not 100% sure where she goes from there. It's quite difficult to see. There has been an elephant walking around and his tracks are here, but her last track that I can find is here, going up the side of the road here. So here we can see it. Right here is the last track that I can find. So these, you can see they're still very small. She's still a little baby, and she starts to go up this way. From here, I'm not sure where she heads from there. We're just checking very carefully. Like I said, the road is really quite hard, and so it's difficult. And with Shongile, it's always quite tough with her, because now these days she doesn't really mind people walking past her on foot. So sometimes you've got to walk right next to her to be able to see her and to be able to find her. So we're going to just keep looking around in the long grass. But while we were walking, we came across the most beautiful caterpillar. So some of you may know this caterpillar already. It's called a dice moth caterpillar. I just don't want to get stuck by those little protrusions that come off the body. Now, the dice moth caterpillar eventually will come out and be quite a drab moth. It's like a little cream-colored moth with little black spots, and that's where it gets its name from, because it looks like a dice. But the caterpillar itself is absolutely beautiful. So that coloration that it's got and these big spikes is all just to try and fool predators and to make sure that predators don't eat it. So it's called aposematic coloration, and that's why it's got those sort of black maroon colors with the white spread over the body to try and deter predators. Now you can see this little guy is actually trying to probably move away from us, because it's probably a bit nervous of these hunking great humans that are all around it. So I'm going to put it back in the grass so that it doesn't commit suicide and fall off. So let's put it back here. There we go, little one. There we go. Isn't that nice? So you can see, much happier now that it's in the grass and moving around there. It'll try and find a certain stem that it likes. You normally find them low down in the grass. They like to kind of just sit, and they often sit with their back hunched like that, in that kind of little S shape that you see. And I don't know why most other caterpillars sit very, very flat, but this guy sits like that. And it's probably just to further enhance the size of those little spikes that they have. Alright. So Alicia, you're saying it's one of the most beautiful caterpillars you've ever seen, and it is probably the most beautiful caterpillar we have out here. Those colors are absolutely incredible. They're so vibrant, and then with those little spikes that come off it with little feathery ends to them, they really are very, very pretty. And like I say, they actually unfortunately get a little bit uglier as time goes on. Their moth, when they forms, is this pale sort of cream color with these little black dots on it, and not very pretty at all in comparison to that. So that is really, it's my favorite caterpillar that we have out here, and I think most guides will tell you that they really like them as well. And this year's been a really good year for them. We've seen lots and lots and lots of these dice moths. They've been all over the place, so it's been quite cool to see how many we've actually seen. But the tracks that we have now, Herbie's busy on the tracks as we're going, and he's looping back around to where he had tracks earlier. So maybe these aren't the fresher ones that we can find. So I'm going to go and check the Mulawati, because I think the Mulawati is probably our best bet. So I think slowly but surely we'll make our way that way. It's going to be a much better option. If she's not lying at these pans, the only other place I can think that she would have gone is the Mulawati. And the reason why is because maybe those baboons have come from this northern side, this elephant has been around, and they've all come this way. And if she's lying here, she may have got a bit nervous and then pushed off a little bit further to the east. So even though the tracks are going west, sometimes with tracking, and this is what I've learned from the best trackers that I've worked with, is that tracking leopard is a lot of the time a sort of gut feel. You've got to think a little bit like a leopard, and you've got to be able to move like that. So sometimes following tracks is always important, but a lot of the really good trackers are guys that are able to sort of visualize where that leopard's going to go, and they'll deviate from the tracks completely and go to another area, and you find either they find the tracks they're going, or they actually find the animal itself. So it's an incredible skill that some of these guys have got. And what they've also taught me is that generally try go with your gut feel. So if you feel like this animal might go in that direction, it's always good to go with that and try and go and check those areas and try and find that animal in the areas that you think. And if there's nothing there, then you can always come back to the last tracks that you had, that which in this case would be somewhere in this area. Now, I have seen Tongile many times all in this thicket. She likes to lie around in this area, and there's no tracks of her coming back south, so that's good news. Although I do see some of the baboon tracks did come here, but they don't look very fresh. But if the baboons did come here, they no doubt would have chased her. She would have had to have moved. So Mohammed, you're wondering how that caterpillar would look when it becomes a butterfly. Well, firstly, it won't be a butterfly, it's a moth, so a little bit different. And how it looks is basically it's got a cream colored wing with a black spot on it. Now, I don't have a picture on me or on my phone, but I'll try to see if I can find one for you and then show you, and so that you can actually see what it looks like. Like I say, it's not nearly as vibrant and as bright and as colorful as what the caterpillar is. It's far more drab and sort of cream colored. It's not very pretty at all. Although the black spots on its wing pattern is really cool. It looks just like a dice. That's where it gets its name from. So it just looks as though you had a dice except cream in coloration, and that's how it's able to get its name. Now, I wonder where little Shongile has gone. Used to all be places that she used to hide, but I'm just looking at how much water it is here. I remember watching a sighting of her and Hosanna trying to catch terrapins, and they were walking all in this area that is now covered in water. So they don't have their normal little hideout that they like to sort of sleep under in these big thickets. So I wonder where else she could have gone. But like I say, Mulawati drainage maybe is the best place to check. The riverbeds are nice places to lie down. Often the cats like to lie there, because in this area you'll see the grass is very long, so it's going to have lots of parasites, whereas the sand, they can go lie down, they don't have grass blowing in their face. It's also going to mold to their body, so they're going to end up with a situation where they're going to have, the soft sand, and it's a lot more comfortable to lie on sand than it is on hard grass with spikes and ticks and varying other parasites that are irritating and annoying you. These are all places that we would like to check. Armand, you're wondering what my favorite animal is. Well, we are busy looking for it. A leopard is my favorite animal. There's just something about them that I really like. They're really beautiful, but two, just the way that they survive on their own, and they're able to sort of get into the savannah area with all these other big predators. So you've got lions that are in groups together, cheetah form coalition, wild dogs in packs, hyenas in clans, and yet as a single member of the sort of hierarchy of predators, they're one of the sort of higher members of that hierarchy, and they're able to survive and to compete out here as an individual is pretty incredible. You can imagine how difficult it must be for these mothers to be able to have their cubs go off and hunt, come back, suckle the cubs, make sure the carcass doesn't get stolen. It really is a tough job to be a leopard. And then just the way that they look, I mean, they're absolutely incredible cats, and that shy, elusive nature which makes them really tough to find in most parts of the world is really quite a special thing. So for me, a leopard, it just sort of embodies everything that I love about safaris and being out in the African bush, and the challenge of finding them and tracking them and trying to to get visuals of them is really sort of the epitome for me. So it is definitely my favorite animal. Then I have sort of two that follow very closely behind that. So the elephant, like the one we saw just now, will be my sort of tied number two with wild dogs. Now, wild dogs are an incredible animal. We don't see too many of them, unfortunately, because they're a bit rare these days. Their numbers have declined due to habitat loss and varying other problems, including coming into contact with as human populations grow. So we tend to take pets with us, and rabies and canine distemper become an issue. So we have huge problems with that at the moment, and that's obviously caused a big decline in their numbers. So for them, it's one is the rarity of them. The second thing is that the way that they move and are able to kind of hunt as this pack and form this pack, and the sort of social ties and bonds within the pack is really quite incredible. So it's quite a contrast. You've got this pack animal that is very sort of tightly knit, Her elephant's also tightly knit, and then you've got the solitary animal. So I'm a bit confused and a bit all over the place, but those are my top 3 and my favorite ones. So that is it for me. So now I'm going to go and check what is going on and seeing what else I can find. Got to keep our wits about us and check. This grass is very, very long. So while I do that, I think let's go across to Byron, and maybe he can tell us what his top 3 favorite animals are.
My favorite animals, Tristan, well, if anybody was watching last night, I'm sure you know. But let's firstly speak about... actually, wait. So my favorite animal is obviously the honey badger and then elephant. We got to see honey badger last night, so I was very, very excited. Honey badger and elephant are by far my favorite animals, but the honey badger just trumps the elephant, and I need to think of a third one. But in the meantime, we've managed to find a troop of baboons that are around Djuma Dam at the moment. They've been foraging for food. That one looks like it's got a bit of a limp, actually. I wonder what happened to it. And you know, these, especially baboons, they constantly fight amongst themselves. There's always conflict within the troop. So it could be anything. Maybe an injury from another baboon. There's such a hierarchy. The dominant baboon will pick on the one just underneath it, and that one will then pick on the one just underneath that, and so on, until everybody's picked on except the dominant baboon. It's basically how a troop of baboons work. Little 3-banded plovers flying around. Oh, what is that? This little bird's flying too fast for me. That may even have been a sandpiper. There's a little sandpiper, everyone. So there's blacksmith plovers, there's a sandpiper, and there was also a little 3-banded plover. Let's just double check. This looks like a wood sandpiper. Let's just have a look, and then we'll get to my tip of the day. Yes, that is indeed the wood sandpiper. I always double check myself with these little brown birds, water birds, just to make sure. But yeah, that is indeed the wood sandpiper. I can hear you, Megan, so continue sending through the questions. Now, the tip of the day. Oh, what is a tip of the day? I wonder. Tip of the day. You see, there's so many tips. I often forget some of them. I forget what I've said before. I think maybe the tip of the day would be, there's some white-faced ducks, white-faced whistling ducks. Lovely to see them. Now, the tip of the day, if you come on a safari, if you are able to, and if you go to one particular place, that's okay for 3 or 4 days. But my tip of the day would be to convince you to try stay longer. 3 days in one area is nice, but there's never a guarantee that you're going to see anything. So maybe try stay a bit longer, and possibly, if you can, try include 2 different areas. I think that would be enough. 2 different areas, and for a period of about a week. So 5 to 6 days. That would be ideal. I think that's my tip of the day for a safari, so that because I know a lot of people travel from all over the world. It's a long way to come. So you want to be able to make the most out of your safari. So hopefully, if you come out here, try and stay for 5 or 6 days, maybe 2 different places, and you'll be able to appreciate different wildlife in different areas, and hopefully see as much as possible. And there was a little kingfisher that was sitting on the... Just have a look over there, VM, I think, just on the branch. There it goes. Oh! Little woodland kingfisher taking a dive. Let's see if it does it again for us. Beautiful, beautiful bird. There it goes. Oh, wow. So quick, it's hard to see when it actually is going to drop into the water. It's almost like it's bathing. Now, the woodland kingfisher, everyone, this one is not hunting for fish. This one is cleaning itself and probably going down for a drink. The woodland kingfisher feeds on insects. So it's not actually looking for food. I think it's having a little drink and cleaning itself.